Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering the most iconic series from anime ever made,
Cowboy
Bebop.
Spike Spiegel, who Rascal didn't know his name until I told her 3 episodes from the end of the series, is a bounty hunter in the far future with an easygoing attitude and some deadly skill in martial arts. Now together with his partners Jet Black and later Faye Valentine as well, they go from job to job across the galaxy looking for the high-priced fugitives to bag. Mm-hmm. And they pick up a dog, Ian, and a kid, Ed, along the way.
Yes.
3 things that Spike doesn't like. Animals,
kids,
and women with attitudes.
So why do we have all 3 on our ship? So, for this show, I actually watched it first, long before Mama did. Before we dive into that, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Yes. Rascal was actually wonderful. She had watched the entire series before me and rewatched it again with me a second time.
Right. So I got to see all the episodes twice over.
First time that she watched it, I watched the first episode, I said... And it was great seeing the episodes again because my mom said she started watching it and then it looked like there was like too much stuff going on at the beginning in terms of the It was the first
violence.
episode.
Yeah,
and I said,
first.
Oh, is this the whole thing? I'm gonna pass. And Russ was like, okay, I'm gonna keep watching. And so, how long was it? It was months later.
Right.
And you was like, do you think you want to watch Cowboy Bebop? And I said, well, I can give it another try of all the other anime we've been watching now.
Right.
And Supernatural, you know.
This is no big deal.
Right.
And then, as it turned out, it wasn't like this every single episode. It was more only when they had to do with Spike's arc and this organization that it was really heavy in, and then one episode with a crazy lunatic killer.
And I actually paid attention to what was going on. I think I was my attention was divided and I really didn't pay attention to what was going on the first time I watched it. But the second time I was completely focused on the episode, and then by the 3rd episode I was really into it and wanted to finish it. And finish it actually quicker than you did on your own. Right,
because for me, I didn't watch it that often. I mean, watch 2 episodes a day. I wait a little bit, watch 2 more episodes, and there were times I forgot, and it's been like a long break. So it was a long time before I finally finished the whole thing, and then even longer before I watched it again with Mama, and we finished it in under a month.
Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to see more episodes, and I kept saying, is there a sequel? And you said, well, just keep watching, and you'll find out. Oh, there's got to be more. And let's get into everything before we get to the end. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen Cowboy Bebop, there will be spoilers, but this anime came out in 98, so I don't feel guilty putting spoilers out.
Right. And it was also the same studio that did Tiger and Bunny anime. And the creator of the anime also did Carol and Tuesday, which you can see on Netflix.
Definitely. And you can even see it, as you were mentioning, in the way Spike moves sometimes, how he moves like Tiger.
Right. I thought that was funny. I was like, why is he walking like that? It's the Tiger walk.
So, it was really... The first episode was really full of action, a lot of shooting, a lot of getting you to understand what he did as... a job, I guess.
Yeah,
you could
the bounty
say.
Hunter, yeah.
Right, so, it wasn't all fun and games and pretty every time. So that message was clear the first episode, but you had episodes that gave you more backstory on Jet Black, and then they picked up Faye, and they picked up, Ian first, and then they picked up Faye, and they picked up Ed, and then they got quite a few of their own dedicated episodes, yes. So you will learn more backstory on them. Which reminds me of Pokemon.
Right. Since it was only 26 episodes, and this is supposedly Spike's story, they had a few ones, like maybe in the latter half of the season. The first half was very much dedicated to Spike and his mini arc and bringing on the characters. In the second half, switch gears a little bit towards showing the character's story and who they are, how they got there, and then when it got towards the end of the series, then went back to Spike to finish his story.
Right. And Spike's an interesting character. He's very likable. You can't help but like him, even with his kind of dour attitude when he's alone, but when he's out doing his job, and he's like Spider-Man saying these quips and things to people, and his personality lights up, and you see the side of him you don't see when he's alone, just being like,
yeah, he's all emo.
Yeah.
And the way the show is set up is sort of like individual stories where they don't connect too much unless it has to do with the character and their arc. Mm-hmm. Other than that, they kind of do stand alone. You don't have to see a previous episode to understand the next one unless it's A, a two-parter, or B, a arc, mm-hmm. which isn't that much. Now, this is not a bad thing because each episode can vary in its tone. Because it's also a mixture of many different genres that the creator had watched and was very influenced by American movies and TV.
Right. I have to say we're very familiar with Steve Blum from doing a ton of voiceover talent.
Right, especially the Green Goblin.
But yes. And of course I think he's perfect as Spike. Yes.
Right.
Yes, definitely. He was perfect as Spike. I mean, he really breathed life into the character. He really made you want to know more about him, see more of the show, and he gave him this distinct personality. We've watched not as much anime as some other people, but we have watched a ton of animation in general, between the two of us, mm-hmm. together and separately, and he's a pretty unique character. Mm-hmm. And then we've seen some anime trailers and things currently that you can see people borrowed from the character,
right,
in the characters of the other animes, even as far back as in the early 2000s. And
right, because it was a big, as you said, big influence on anime in general and mm-hmm. people watching in America. This is one of the animes that really jump-started being popular here. Mm-hmm. Of course, you had Akira, of course, you had Sailor Moon, you had Dragon Ball, you had Speed Racer and many other animes, but this is one of the key ones that really started the influence and more people being exposed to it in the Western Hemisphere.
And I've never heard so much jazz in my life. I mean, that was pretty much the backdrop.
Or blues or something, yeah.
And what was interesting is all through the entire series, the singing was in English. But when it got to that last episode, the jazz song was sang in Japanese.
Right.
And that was an interesting turn.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually fit the final episode.
Right. And it's, as you said, there's a whole bunch of different genres going on in the show mm-hmm. at once. It's a space western, it's action, it's bounty hunting, it's noir.
It's a cop show.
Yeah, it's a cop show. It can be a comedy. Mm-hmm. It's sci-fi. It's
a woman's independence.
Yeah, independent woman movie.
Yeah,
and can't forget
the characters.
Right, and don't forget like you said, the noir movies, the crime gangster mm-hmm. movies. All of that was really right, and it's like in the future on Mars. So yes, that is the same universe, and it's really odd how they have this whole world set up because you're thinking, oh, they're on Earth until they say Mars. Mm-hmm. And then,
but they do go to Earth.
Right, and it's like, can we go back to Mars?
But they do go to Earth.
Right.
And you have Jet Black, who was his friend and a fellow bounty hunter.
Right.
Who was a former cop.
Right.
And that was voiced by Bo Billingsley.
Right.
And he reminds you of a lot of shows, excuse me, a lot of shows that took place, I'll probably say in the 70s. During the 70s, you can go watch the retro channels, and they've got a lot of old cop shows. And he typically looks like a character that you would have in one of those shows. Mm-hmm. And our Nana used to love watching things like Beretta and Starsky and Hutch. And those are the only two I can think of on reruns. And mm-hmm. he really reminded me of those characters, seeing him. Mm-hmm. And but he also had a sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And I liked when they had the episode where he dressed up like he was a hippie, and he had the long wig that the dog wore before he did.
Right.
And he had on the peace signs and the t-shirt, and he was like a totally different person. And at first, if you hadn't realized it, you would not have realized I was Jet Black.
Right.
So that was interesting. And then seeing his backstory.
Right.
His former partner and how he was betrayed by him and he didn't even know it. And it took all these years for him to find out the truth. And how he was really loyal. And again, that's like one of the traits you usually have when it's a police character. And then you got to meet one of his old girlfriends who wasn't loyal, and then you find out what her issue was with him, that he loved her too much, and he cared too much, and he wanted to do everything for her, and you were just like hearing crickets. Right?
It's like, what are you, what?
And her current boyfriend was accused of murder, so I guess her taste changed. But he was also a very layered character and a very good character and a very distinct character, because yes, he's similar to, as I mentioned, to a live action character, but in the animes we've watched so far, and again, I know we haven't watched as many as some of you have, bravo, we can't wait to catch up with you. He was distinct in terms of characters we've seen. Never seen another character so far in another anime like Jet Black.
Right. And then you had Faye
Valentine.
And she was a big mystery from the beginning anyway. And it was so much of a mystery that she didn't even know who she was until they finally gave you 2 to 3 dedicated episodes about her backstory and what happened to her. And she was in an accident in 2012, and she was in this sort of chamber for cryogenic chamber for 50 years because they didn't have the medicine to help her yet. So by the time she was out, she was
84 years old.
Right, but she still looked like she looked in her 20s still.
Right.
So it explained her personality.
Yeah, because you look at her and you go, she acts kind of strange, and the way she dressed and behaved. And then it all made sense, as you said, once you got the complete backstory. And she was a character who really didn't let anyone get close to her. And very interesting. And let's see, who she was voiced by, I think, Wendy Lee.
Okay,
I'm not really familiar with.
Yeah, I'm not sure of her either. But if you do know her, let us know what other voices she's done.
Right. That would be great. And then you had Ed.
Right. Ed was bonkers.
Francois.
Ed
Apple.
Ed was Ed.
What was the last name?
Ed was Ed. Pretty much. Edward was Ed. And Ed was bonkers.
And Ed was referred to personally in the third person.
Right, as Ed. And Ed was a hacker. A very ingenious hacker. In fact, it was so well done and legendary that people weren't even sure if Ed was real or who Ed was, male or female or height, range, gender, nothing. And no one knew who Ed was really.
And Ed was a kid.
Right,
all the time. Tall kid.
Everyone thought that Ed was in the doll and Ed was just, like I said, another kid. And then Ed's backstory is also very vague until near the end of the series when it collides with Faye's, with her finding out. They found a little bit about Ed and what happened with Ed's father too, which was actually pretty hilarious because Ed is usually a source of a lot of humor, from the hacking and saying just nonsense bonkers things offhandedly, but still a genius, but just doesn't know how to act like anything. And then it gets towards the end, and you find out that
not too young to have some fun. Oldie mystery.
And wasn't raised really by anybody, which is why Ed is so bonkers. You're like, Ed thinks this is okay. There was literally no common sense or anything for Ed, because that's how it's been for years. So that's why Ed was kind of crazy.
And it looks like everyone Ed encountered wanted to take care of Ed, but Ed was pretty good with taking care
of Ed.
Ed. And it was assumed that Ed was a girl because of the dress and the hair and the voice, the voice actor. But later on, the dad lets you know Ed was male. But as you were mentioning, it was like the advent of a non-binary character long before now, which was really just, I would say,
they were kind of ahead.
Decades ahead of its time.
Yeah, they were very ahead of that.
Yeah.
And then you had Ein, who was actually an experimental dog they had tested on, and they gave it so much intelligence boost it was on almost on the same level as a human.
Yes.
Which came the joke from people saying the dog is the only smart one on this team. And he was very intelligent and knew there was danger, and he couldn't speak, of course, but he was aware of his surroundings. He understood what people were saying. He knew when he had to eat or when they didn't have food, so he would have to go look for food himself. And he was sort of like a little guard dog, and you knew that even though they were complaining, oh gosh, we don't need a dog on here, they still took care of him. They didn't throw him out.
Right. Everyone got to stay. And money had become so devalued in the future that, 8 million, 20 million, 38 million was the cost, or I should say the payment of a bounty on some of the heads.
Right.
Well, millions of dollars pays, you get paid millions of dollars, and it pays for the damage you did and repair to the ship, and you might have enough left over for pizza. And it's like, whoa, yeah.
Right, so a very good thing is with Wild Tigers, he'd be broke all the time.
And Spike seemed to be motivated in finding Julia, who you find out was, his love of his life. And he said at one point that she was the part of him that was missing. And Jet Black looked at him like, yeah, he was stunned. And he was like, he knew he wasn't going to stay. He knew he was going to try to find her. And then in true to, I guess, the law of attraction, well, no, not the law of attraction, because Julia actually knew who Faye was, but Faye didn't know who she was. And she had Faye take a message back to Spike, which culminated in the beginning of the end, which is one of the worst endings of an anime ever. I absolutely positively hate this ending because I love this show so much, and I love the character Spike, and I was just, I was devastated.
Yeah, I was not very happy.
Rascal already knew, and she didn't tell me, she didn't spoil it, she was just like, just wait and see, just wait and see. And all the events that happened in that final episode, yeah, there's no way they can be another season unless it's a prequel.
Right.
Or it picks up on the characters that remain.
Right. And because we found out that the show was actually canceled because of either low ratings or the violence in it, we don't know if they were actually planning to do a sequel or not.
Right.
Which is why the author has said you draw your own conclusion if he's gone or not, because they were probably planning something else after and it never came to be.
Well, to me it looks like he was gone because everyone who would come to help him had been taken out.
Right.
Except for Faye and Jet, but their ships wouldn't work. So there was no way they could help him as they normally did.
Right.
He was laying there. We knew it happened. He was gone because no one could come and save him.
Right, which was very unfortunate.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's not really anything else for it. There's just 26 episodes, an OVA claiming to be more Cowboy Bebop coming, which we really didn't see. And then there was a theatrical film taking place between
episodes 22 and 23.
Right, with a big 90-minute or over 90-minute adventure theatrical movie.
I wish I'd known that prior to finishing the series because I would have rather have seen the movie after episode 22 than seen episode 23, because now that I know how it ends, it would not make me happy to watch the movie, although I will, but knowing that there's no happy ending to this,
which
makes
is
it bittersweet.
So maybe it came out at the time when the episodes were out, almost like with Full Metal Alchemist. So, as for episodes, like we said, they varied from different fields. Like they would have some that were really action-packed, some that were really drama, some were comedic, some were just stupid, some were had a whole mixture.
But they all fit perfectly together in this series and made it absolutely wonderful and a joy to watch. And if you have not seen Cowboy Bebop, like I hadn't, then I recommend you watch it. Don't be put off by the first episode. This show is absolutely wonderful, and since if you've listened to this podcast, you already know the ending, so brace yourself. If you've seen it already, let us know what you think in the comments below.
Right. And I think I want to share one more thing. I think my favorite episode, there are 26 of these. It's 26 episodes, and there was quite a bit to tell, even for individual stories or arcs. But for me personally, I don't know if Mama has a favorite episode, but for me, I think my favorite episode, was number 6. And it had this actually pretty cool idea with they were trying to find this guy who apparently was like taking people out in different organizations or gangs.
Mm-hmm.
And it thought that he was just wheelchair bound, and he had a son that did these concerts and stuff. And then you find out, like, towards the end, that this kid was the one running this mafia.
Oh gosh,
and he couldn't age, so he was running gangs all this time, and no one even knew because they kept assuming it was a different person. It was this guy's kid. He's been running gangs and stuff from the shadows for years. I'm like, why has no one done that with a kid running a gang? That actually would be a pretty interesting antagonist for a series or a movie or something. Like, why has anyone ever done that? Because he reminded you so much of Salim.
Yes, definitely. And he was pretty creepy.
Right.
He was pretty creepy. I do have some favorite episodes. Maybe we can share them in the description, what our favorite episode numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
But I could go on and on about those episodes. I will say that the backstory episodes for Jet and Faye were very interesting. They weren't my favorites, but I loved that they had them, so we find out more. And, of course, the backstory episode on Ed. I really liked the episodes that focused on Spike the most because of the action and then the characters he would end up meeting. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, most of the characters that he met end up being taken out.
Yeah.
Right. But you got to see again how he interacted with people, the rapport he would build with them. And sometimes at first they're like bounty hunter and they couldn't stand him simply because they knew he was a bounty hunter or they discovered it, but by the end of that episode they liked him, and you know, it just everything changed because of the person he was. So I would say my favorite episodes are the ones that focused on him, but we'll put some numbers in the description for you.
Right.
And if you haven't seen this anime, we recommend you see it. It's available on demand. The full season, or series I should say, is there.
Right, and be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
And we hope we put Steve Blum in another English dub voicing character for an anime series soon.
Right. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Ask Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
See you, Space Cowboy.
And reporters sitting flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Hit her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, give it to you later on in the form of a locket.